Hello, and welcome to Have At Us Reviews for Your Pleasure. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Nietzsche.
This is episode 7, Equivalent Exchange. Today we are reviewing Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, the beloved hit 2009 anime based on the manga. This is the more accurate version adaptation. There will be heavy spoilers up to and including the final episode, but not the second to last episode. We will not discuss that one.
I honestly failed to remember exactly where the episodes delineate. We finished this yesterday, and that is how interested I was.
Well, let me tell you. The last episode is number 64. The second to last episode is number 63.
Are you demeaning my counting abilities right now?
I would never do that. I have too much respect for your ability to count.
Uh-huh. That hurts my feelings a lot. It hurts my feelings almost as much as how overblown this show is.
Overblown.
I thought this was going to be a great show. I thought at least it could reach the good level. I did. But it fell short. Real short of good.
Real short.
Yeah, real short of good.
Okay.
I thought it was going to pick up at some point, and then it finally picked up, and then I was like, oh, that section's ended. This is no longer very good.
Okay, well, what section is that?
We picked it up at Briggs. I liked Briggs.
Okay.
I liked when we got to Briggs. I liked how all that played out. And then good old General Armstrong, she goes back to Central. And then from there, it starts to wane a little bit. And then once you've left Briggs entirely, that show goes back to the same quality it was at.
I do think Briggs is a good section. I don't know if it's my favorite. I think it's a pretty good section.
It was just the most interesting section. I was so bored with most other things that were happening. And that's majorly on the pacing of this show. The pacing is just really bad for a large portion of it.
So I would agree with pacing issues to a certain point. I think the show, in its first fifth or quarter, somewhere along that line, is a little slow. I don't think it's particularly interesting. I think the plot points at the beginning either happen too fast or too slow, or we talk about some redundancies a little too much. But I think once we go to the southern town and meet with their teacher, I think the show picks up significantly from there with a couple dips and some problems near the end of pacing that I think is very odd. We have this several month time skip, which is just kind of a weird thing to have towards the end. We're gonna meet up on the last day or the promised day, and then next episode it's the promised day, and you're like, well, there was 4 or 5 months at least of time between that, so I'm glad we're here. Not really sure on everything that's happened, but okay. So I think that's kind of a problem. It's a little weird. It feels like, okay, we need to get to the last arc. I could probably throw in an arc to get us there, but I'm just going to do the last part, which maybe was for the best.
I don't view it that way. I think that the purpose of why we had the time skip was dramatic effect. Right, it was the effect of you don't know all the plans and things that have happened to get us here, so you are just as surprised by everything as it comes about, right? You don't get to see them strategically plan out how they're going to do this, blow up the bridge and drop, Wrath down there, and how everybody's going to play in there. You don't know they're going in the radio station. You don't really know how Briggs is handling that, and if they're going to be there, or what they're going to do, or they also snuck a tank in. You get some foreshadowing things that I feel like maybe when you are watching it the next time you see those things. But I didn't really see a whole lot of that, which was fine. I don't mind being surprised, but I also like having some level of detail. You could have done an episode or two where we just kind of snapshot the people planning things and doing things, and it would have worked. It would have set things up nicer and smoother.
My thinking is I think you had a good opportunity here for a small 6-episode arc or so. That's not like a filler arc, but I think the opportunity is that you've separated Edward and Alphonse. They're on different sides of the country with different missions, different groups, and I think that's a pretty cool development, actually. I like seeing them separated there. I think that would have allowed for a little bit more development on their own. And I think I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity, is that they didn't separate them for long enough. For a little while, but not for a really long time. And I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity.
They're separated at the end.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, so during that skip, though, they're separated for that skip.
Mm-hmm.
But then you come back from the skip, and, we're meeting up the fight pride and gluttony there at the forest. It doesn't take that much, and it's like, oh wow, it's so nice to see you, and it's like, yeah, but you were separated like with the mine shaft and whatnot. Well, I don't know. I just feel like you could have got a little bit more development with them separated, and I think that would have been cool. I also just think like seeing the relationship of like Edward and Greed off could have been pretty cool, and you could have developed like Alphonse with, well, whoever you really wanted to. But I don't know that it's super important, but I think it could have been nice.
I think it's too much risk. I think there is potential that you could have done better things if you wanted to do that. But I don't think that they failed in the aspect of character development and people moving forward and having relations. So why risk something that you've already accomplished well?
It's a fair point. It certainly would be a risk. But, I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
And also nothing lost. There was nothing lost here by them doing it that way versus doing it the way you wanted to do it. But I do think planning would have been better. If we'd seen some planning and them kind of figuring that out, it would have been more interesting.
Even 2 episodes would have been kind of nice. One, it would give you the opportunity to be like, okay, well, here's the plan. Okay, well, the plan's not going very well. As it is, we don't know if the plan's going very well or not, because we don't really know how far ahead they've thought. It doesn't really seem like they've thought that far ahead, honestly. Kind of seems like they're just throwing shit together there at the end, and it's gonna play out as it does. But I don't know if that's really fair. I don't know what they really devised. And it seems like they all kind of have their own plans.
Well, there's the deal with Azumi over there. She at some point meets up with them and is a part of the Briggs plan.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's very clear she was a part of the Briggs plan. Because there's the line where they're like, you were just shooting the tank at the wall or the gate so that you could cover the sounds of you coming in. And they're like, yep, straight up.
Yeah.
And so that was clearly a planned event that they had intended to do, but we don't know where she came in, right? The last time you see, she gets her guts rearranged.
Yeah.
And then, boom, moving on. See ya.
Yeah, it's a little like, okay, and not everybody knew of this plan, because both Armstrongs that were there didn't even know who this woman was. So it's like, okay, who knew of the plan, who didn't? Not positive.
It's not clear that, like, Major or General Armstrong woman here didn't know. She just clearly didn't, or she had clearly never met her.
That's true.
But it's not exactly clear that she has no clue how that worked. Like, I'd take it either way.
I guess.
She doesn't seem like a woman who would not know exactly what the plan was.
I think that would be consistent with her character, but she's so surprised by this character's abilities, at least, that, like, you would think you would at least be able to do a little process of elimination and figure out, oh, this must be the alchemist that was part of the plan.
I don't know. After you fought Sloth that long, and then this woman just comes in and wrecks shop, like, yeah, you suck, woman. Her pride's probably hurting. Okay,
Probably a little bit.
so she's a little confused. Okay, potentially. I mean, I'd take it either way. I feel like there's reasoning both sides, and it doesn't bother me.
Sure.
Either side of how that really goes. That's like one of the last few good sections. After that, it all really starts to roll down the hill. The dung beetle rolled his pile of crap up atop the hill, and then it just kept rolling down.
Yeah. How unfortunate. You lost control. I would almost actually agree. I think the last 5 or 6 episodes are a little sloppy, with some weird elements. Particularly, Hohenheim's plan is the part that really kind of gets to me. I like that they do foreshadow it a little bit, and they show you that it's foreshadowed with him using the souls that's within him, and he's placed those around the country. Like, we see the flashback to him doing that, and it's like, okay, we've connected that. I do appreciate that they tried to do that. My problem is that we got the shadow of the eclipse on the land that makes this perfect circle on the surface of the planet. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think that's quite how an eclipse would work on the planet. Wouldn't just make this weird ring on this one country that just so happens to be perfectly measured with where you planted everything. It's a little weird to me. That part really kind of is like, I don't know about that. It's a weird counter plan.
That is not the unbelievable part. with enough calculation of mathematics, easily doable. How he has that level of technology available to him to get that information in the 1900s, I'm not positive at all. But he's a cool guy. He's the best person ever. I don't really understand. Whatever. The real problem is, how does he choose to talk to all of these souls? Like, just the souls in him retained individuality? Because, like, the souls in every other person who has similar deals here, very few of them, if any of them, retain individuality, right? Once they're absorbed in. You got Kimberly over there, and you got Ling. Who else you got? You got anybody else who retains individuality.
Within a Philosopher's Stone?
Yeah, like...
Ooh, yeah, I don't know if there is any other.
Right, but all 500,000 or whatever of his people.
500,000.
I think it's like 524,000 or something, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty big number. If I'm just gonna make a wild guess, I would have to assume it has more to do with intention and you want them to do that, and so you can eternally kind of work on doing that. And he's been alive, presumably a long time. I don't think we ever see like an exact date where like Xerxes falls, and then you get the homunculus created. I don't know exactly how long ago that was, but presumably a long time. And so maybe with time and effort, he was able to do that because he wanted to make that effort and do that. But that's just a wild guess. It's not explained, and I could be completely wrong. I do not know.
Because the show doesn't like to explain a lot of things. It likes to explain some things, which was kind of nice. And I was like, oh, this is good. And then it just stops. It's like, but like, I don't want to explain things anymore. I'm just gonna stop caring.
I definitely think it does that with elements that are probably a little rule breaking to what you were trying to create and isn't super consistent. So if you just kind of let it slide, it's like, oh, okay, you just didn't know about this element. I don't know. It's definitely not super good at explaining everything. Some aspects I think it does pretty alright with. You do learn a lot about like what a Philosopher's Stone is, how they're created, and that process. Turns out there's been a lot of them made, honestly. There's a lot of people over the years that have been sacrificed.
Yeah, my confusion on that was like, how many people does it really take? Because there's the one where like, good old Marco is making Philosopher's Stones, and he's got like 10 people in this ring, and then it makes a Philosopher's Stone, right? Like you see it happen. But then like, we killed an entire country's worth of people, and that also made a Philosopher's Stone. I just needed some rules, some consistency, some explanation. Like, it's not as potent with 10 of them as it is with 500,000. That's a fine deal if you just made one sentence to explain that to me.
We can deduce that.
How?
By the fact that the father, or, kid in the glass, Dwarf in the flask. Dwarf in the flask. He has the stone of a much more powerful one, and so it takes more to like whittle that down.
But that was also after he had taken in like all kinds of craziness. Yeah. He vomit up souls and God, and he had some massive indigestion problems. His stool was not healthy.
Yeah, he should have.
Life was bad.
He should have had some Pepto on him.
Maybe so.
But they do say that, like, all that's left within him is those that were attained from Xerxes, right? So, I think it's a fair deduction. Is it well explained? No. I think they could have really delved into the stones, like, because there's different iterations of them, too. Like, you got one that's liquid, you have one that's round, you have one that's pretty jagged, one that's a bit more stone-like. Is that based on, like, their purity, or how many souls that are in them? I don't know. I'm not sure.
You know that you can't digest them as a human, because Kimberly keeps his in his mouth all the time. All the time.
He does do that, but he doesn't swallow it.
That's what I'm saying, but it's not digestible, because saliva would break that down.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that. But Kimberly was a joke. He was just kind of bad to be bad, and a jerk, and his weird change of heart thing at the end. Kind of change of heart, not really. I was really confused about that whole scene. Edward reaches into Pride, but like, not exactly. It was a really weird thing. And then he pulls out a fetus. Just a small, tiny fetus that I am like, oh, it's dead. And then it was alive, and then it gets raised. Like, it's left underground for who knows, right? Who knows how long that is.
That is a weird scene because the only things you can really deem from it are that Pride says he's turned himself into a philosopher's stone to go inside of him to chase after like his true self when he then rips out his true self. And we have seen with the other homunculus that they do have a true form, or at least some of them do.
Envy.
Envy does.
But other than envy, I got nothing, right?
Well, you see with like Gluttony, he has the eye and...
That's just a part of...
Gateway.
That's a part of who he is, though. That's not like a deal. Like Lust has, spear wonderfulness out of her hands, I guess. Presumably she could do with other things, but, she just gets burned. She gets entirely burned, right? And her deal just breaks, right?
Yeah.
Right, it's done. It's
we
over.
don't really know with her.
So she, like, you have precedence that there is a true form, but not all of them really have a true form.
That we know.
Right, because then, like, Wrath is just like, Hohenheim over there, and they just both magically decide to be old. Like, I wasn't really positive how that worked.
Oh, where he, like, ages 10 years?
They just decide to age to death. And I was like, so the Philosopher's Stone thing isn't really working anymore for Wrath. And I was really confused, because then he just kept bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And if it wasn't working, then he should be dead. Like, and I might be able to forgive that on, like, the front of him being a homunculus still, and he's still cool.
Yeah.
But then there's, like, Riza, who just got to bleed more blood than he did, and she lived, so... Losing blood does not matter.
Not a whole lot.
Like, which I realize is like we just want you to ignore this and its dramatic effect.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not. It's not working because I'm confused or I'm bored.
Yeah, they only kill off a couple characters due to, like, blood loss or, like, severe injury.
Riza was going to be one of them. She should have been one. I was really hoping for her to die right there. I really wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
And then she didn't. Good old May came in and saved her. And I was like, you would. You would.
How sad. But yeah, overall, I also just think that the end fight is a little underwhelming. Like, oh, we all just blew our load at this guy, and now he's still good to go. And now we're gonna stand here. Edward's gonna fucking do it, though. We're not gonna help him. No, he's got this. I am still perfectly capable of firing a flame. Nope, I'm gonna ignore that.
Well, Mustang's timing on when he wants to use his flames is oddly convenient, especially at the end. Like, you see him try to fire some flames at the Wrath failures, right? Yeah. Once. And then he never tries again until his glove gets cut. And then I see he can't do it. But this fight's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
And you're telling me you can't, like, bring your hand away and do a little snap and, like, make their eyes explode.
Right?
Like, you seemed real fond of that.
Yeah.
You really liked that with Envy. You was like, boom, boom. No.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that whole deal with him, I was like, I don't understand how all of you suck except Riza. Like, how did all of you basically kill nobody, but Riza just killed, like, 6 people in a row?
It's very...
Like, no effort.
Yeah, I think the name of the game with the last handful of episodes is inconsistency. And we're going to throw out some of the rules, and we're just going to do what we want to do for the sake of having an ending. It's a little sloppy, and it's unfortunate. Now, I don't dislike the last episode. I like how it kind of gives everybody, like, you see a little bit of what they're going to be doing and developing into. I think that's nice. I don't think it's super necessary, but it's fine. But I think the events are pretty slow.
I mean, the last episode is like a wrap-up was nice. The best part of that was Wenry and Ed, though. That's it.
Well, I think that's a cute little section.
A nice little touching, like, oh, kind of moment. That was fine.
Yeah.
I was okay with that.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate.
But after that, I was like, okay, great. We all knew you were getting together. Nobody cares, really. You're together. You have 2 children.
Yeah.
Good on you. But Alphonse and May, no children.
No children, no. How sad.
That would be too much. Ling would have to kill their children.
Ooh, maybe. That'd be a threat to his authority.
Yeah.
Could be.
Ling could be a child killer. Not really, but, maybe. Maybe he gets corrupted and he just turns into a child killer. I'm believing it. That's my headcanon. May and Alphonse have no children in that picture because we needed to make sure that Ling's authority was not in jeopardy. Yep.
That's a stupid headcanon.
No, that's the best headcanon. I've decided it.
That's fine.
The world now knows that is exactly what happened. The other two there were two other people in that picture, and I don't remember. One was the colored girl from Gold Rush Town or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know her name.
That's not even the name of that town, I don't think, but Rush Valley.
Rush Valley.
Rush Valley.
I like Gold Rush Town, though, because it's completely stupid.
I just knew it had Rush in it.
Yeah.
And Gold Rush.
Yeah, Rush Valley. And then her, boss.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was her very clearly homosexual, weird, drag queen-esque boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I'm sure he had a name. I don't remember it.
Wouldn't his name be the name on the shop?
What was his shop?
Was Atelier or something?
Oh, the video game?
Yeah, the video game series.
Oh, wow. He makes those? I didn't know that.
Most people have never heard of these games. They're, floored now.
I mean, those are pretty unknown niche games. I haven't even played them. So, anyway, yeah, it's just them. And then you see, some pictures of, Alex Armstrong and his two subordinates.
Nobody cares about that.
Was Ross in that picture?
Ross.
Yeah, Maria Ross. The girl that...
Yeah. I know who that is now.
Yeah.
She is... I don't know. I was just ready to be done, honestly. I knew pretty much what was going to happen with a lot of these people, and I just didn't care anymore. I was like, let's move on. I want to be done.
You're like, just gotta last 10 more seconds.
I just wanted to be done.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
Sure.
I was like, whatever. I know what happens with the only, good people. So let's move on.
Since we've mainly talked about the last half, because Briggs is pretty late, I do like some of the arcs I do like earlier are when you have May and Scar together. You got the Elric brothers back in Central. Mustang just went to Central, and so you got Riza, and they're all kind of uncovering some of the stuff about the homunculus, and then they take Gluttony and bring him to their hideout, and you get the doctor there. I think that's a pretty cool little mini arc. Well, I don't know, there's many, it's pretty significant, but I think that's a pretty cool section.
It's fine. It's fine. It's not great. Gluttony gets out, whatever. I'm like, okay, I don't really care.
Is that where Lust dies?
Lust dies way before that.
Is it way before that?
Because the whole reason he breaks out is because Mustang enters the room and he's like,
yeah,
Mustang killed Lust.
Yeah.
His weird voice. Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
That makes sense.
Lust dies when they're in the underground research area.
Yeah.
And Riza almost just gives herself up to die.
Yep.
Winry gets really upset after that whole deal. His Havoc kid should have been dead, but he's just paralyzed, but he presumably gets to walk at the end.
Yeah, I think Havoc 100% should have died there.
Right. It makes zero sense. But then, there's a good old Mustang coming in and this blood-fueled rage over here and just burns her to the ground. And then she never gets to come back. And I liked Lust. I thought she was good, and I feel like you had potential to do so much more.
Yeah.
Could have really made a really sultry character and really done some really good things there.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
And then
I didn't need, TNA shots and stuff out the wazoo or something, which we did pretty respectable with in this whole show.
Yeah, it doesn't really have much of anything.
Which was good. But I did want her to kind of be kind of the seductress-esque woman because she was named Lust, right? I feel like that could have worked really well. But we didn't get that. She's just kind of pulling some strings and doing things. And
then dies.
And then she just gets murdered.
I do think that's a pretty cool scene, though.
The scene visually is really good and interesting.
Yeah.
And I like Riza in that scene. But I basically like Riza at all times.
Right.
Riza, top of the list.
Best character.
She is better than everybody else in this show.
Okay.
Most of them by a very, very long shot. She pushed them off the cliff, and now she's looking down at most of them.
Ah, how unfortunate.
Some people are just on a cliff that's slightly lower.
Okay.
But, that's fine. But the best part early on is the Lior scenes, where they're just really early.
Yeah, that's like episode 3.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked the Lior. Lior was contained. It was nice. It made sense. It had whoever red-haired girl was. Rose, yeah, good old Rose. I liked her. I liked seeing her come back and have good development. Okay. That was really great.
It is cool how we went back to that. I think that's a nice touch.
Yeah, that was great. I like that section. There wasn't much else that was very interesting early on, though. Like, there's some interesting revelations and stuff, but then Hughes dies, and I was like, please, you've done pretty good with a lot of things. We just don't need to have the trope where this is the driving force for every action from here on out. And that's what it felt like. And I was like, please, just let Hughes rest in peace. You're like rolling this man over in his grave.
They do bring him up frequently.
All the time.
Particularly Mustang.
And I get it. Mustang is sad. That's fine. But I don't feel like that was a, justifiable relationship for him to be that crazy over based on what I saw. Like, he could have a good friendship, and that's fine, but I didn't see him really build or have that great friendship. I saw the same war scene every time, and then I got one additional scene way later, and I was already tired. I was already like, I'm done with Mustang. I'm done with your stupid Hughes problem. If you killed one of his subordinates, that'd be a different story. I would just believe innately that they had a great bond.
Now, I agree to some extent. I believe that they had a bond, but I do think they should have built it up more. I think he dies too early. I think it's good that he dies. You need to have, some characters of consequence kick the bucket. But I think you should have waited a little bit longer for both Hughes and Lust. I think you could have saved those a little bit longer and could have built it up a little bit more. Particularly, I think Lust just gets kind of short shrift because all the other homunculus last a long time. Well, Sloth doesn't last a long time, but he's introduced so late that it's like whatever. And he's probably my least favorite of the homunculus. But you could have let her last a little bit longer, Hughes a little bit longer. Maybe had it so that he's getting like really deep into like the conspiracy kind of thing, or he's trying to infiltrate. I don't know. There's a lot of things you could have done, but they don't. He figures something out, and then they kill him off. Now we're sad.
But he figures it out, and then he immediately dies.
Yeah, very fast. Yeah.
Right. There's no other point where that level of information gathering is so immensely quick. Right. And you could maybe be like, Pride knew, and he alerted her, whatever. Right, if you want to make that's how that went, that's fine. But I need more evidence of this happening at other points.
Sure.
Right? Or just show that to me, that's how that happened. It was just like, he's caught on to something. Dead. Dead. Lust is now here in the shadows, and she is about to kill you, but you got away. Good job. Only to have Envy come and screw you up. Dead.
Yeah.
Shot.
Yeah.
It's over.
Other things I like the episode where the brothers are on the island for their training as a flashback. I think that's a cool little episode of them kind of learning how to survive and whatnot. It shows how, even though he's a state alchemist at 15 and his brother's 14, but it shows that they've learned some tricks from a younger age, and you see them learning to fight. I think that's a pretty cool little episode. I like that.
It's fine. My problem comes back to pacing, though. We have all these weird flashback scenes all the time early on, and they're never paced well. They never feel like we should be here. They're just like, here's some information. It's useful information. You probably need to know that. But this was not the time and place for it. Often is how I felt about a lot of those things. It was more jarring than the beginning episode, which is really jarring, but most of the time their other flashback scenes were just really jarring and weird.
Well, the first episode is an entirely original episode, and is just let's try to introduce... Because you see, Kimberly in that episode for some reason, and you see Alex Armstrong, even though later on it seems like they hadn't met with... Fullmetal hadn't met this guy. Maybe he had. I really feel like that first episode is 100% not needed. It's a really weird place to have to start. I don't like it. But
the only purpose it really serves is to introduce, the citywide transmutation circle.
Yeah.
And I held on to that. I was like, this is important.
Yeah,
and it was important. It was very important at the end, and that was fine. But it was really weird. I didn't think about the fact that they. Yeah, it does, I feel like Armstrong does like act like he's never met him.
Yeah, which is where it's like, okay, it's a little weird. So I do have a problem with that episode existing. Whatever. In my head, the show basically starts with episode 2, which is a flashback episode. To your point, is that it shows how they try to transmute their mother. That goes pretty badly, I'd say. You know, they tried, failed miserably, lost a lot for it. No, I do think that's a pretty cool episode, but I don't know that it needs to be episode, 2.
I'm fine if you want to. Fine if that's episode 1, and we just continued chronologically.
Yeah.
To get somewhere, that'd be fine.
Sure.
Right? But then we need to stop going flashback every time we need to mention that they, like, burned their house or did these things, or, like, I get it. I saw it. I know they did this.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that again. But we do it often.
Yep.
Like, they don't have a slideshow that they pull out to tell people every time. They're not like...
A little photo book.
And this is what she looked like. And this is our house on fire.
Yeah.
This is a before. Here's an after.
We did a pretty good job on it.
Yeah. Here's it, in rubble. Like, I get it. I understand. I know you screwed up. Everybody else knows you screwed up. It's fine. Let's move along.
Yeah. I agree. And it kind of makes me think of another problem, is that I think that the two brothers reaffirm their goals way too frequently at the beginning of the show. It's like every episode or every other episode, we got to talk about how this is our goal and what we're going to do to meet it. And then the next episode, we got to talk about that same thing. And I'm like, you just talked about that. I don't need you to talk about that again. And then they keep doing it. And then there's kind of some weird. Particularly one thing I don't like is when they're at Laboratory 5 in Central. And you get like Barry the Chopper talking to Alphonse and being like, oh, well, what if you were just created? I don't like that.
For real?
So my problem with it is I feel like it lowers the characters a bit. Because I would have liked it more if he's like, no, I have complete faith that I'm not created. I think that would have been a stronger bond showing, not really building, but a show moment of like, these guys really do, because it's pretty early in the series, they really have 100% faith in each other. And I think that's a strong and good bond, especially within, or for brothers. And I think that's cool. I don't like how like this rando Barry the Chopper guy, who's a freaking mass murderer, is coming in and it's like, oh, well, what if you were created? Oh no, I didn't even think about that.
That's exactly why I feel like it was potent. Because he is also someone who's got his soul put into a pseudo armor. So it levels the playing field of like he is an authoritative person, right? He can say these things, and maybe he has some truth in it. Why you trusting a mass murderer? That's a little questionable. But you know what? He's some young kid. That's fine. Some young kids are impressionable and stupid, and that's fine. And Alphonse never really seemed like he was like that great on those types of issues. But he also just wasn't that great in general. Maybe I'm just putting him down to put him down. But yeah, I thought that was a nice little philosophical discussion. We left him having to think about it. The end result was also a really nice bonding moment and helpful deal.
With them fighting?
And it really... No, that the very end result is really stupid.
Okay.
But them, like, getting to that point is good.
Like the argument.
The argument and Wenry, like, understanding and all of this, and... They set that up just fine. I don't know what's your problem. You just don't like Barry.
I actually like Barry. That's actually not my problem. I think it's cool how they actually use Barry later on. And he doesn't play a big role, but he plays a bigger role than you would have ever expected from his introduction, I think. I just don't like the lack of, like, faith in it. It's really early in the show, and I just feel like it does a poor job of establishing just how much the bond of these two is. Because you do see it early on with, like, Shao Tucker and Nina and that whole situation. Like, you can tell that they're close. But it's never really tested or, like, questioned. And I feel like that would have been a good opportunity to test it and then show, no, we're above that. And I don't know. It doesn't jive with me.
I feel like you are acting like their bond is perfect from the get-go, and you wanted it to just showcase how perfect it was. Whereas I feel like this was to showcase it's a good bond, but it's not like unsinkable, right? This ship is definitely sinkable.
I think you could add something stronger for showing that. But I don't think it's established well enough to have that be challenged quite yet. Maybe if it was done a little bit later, I'd get it. But I don't think the timing of it is great. But this is also still where I think the show is a little bit weaker.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel like it was a fine playstyle. You're wrong, and that's fine. You just expected them to be the coolest people ever.
Well, I think their bond is a strong point of the show as a whole, and I just feel like it kind of damages that aspect of the show a little bit in that moment.
You think their bond is like an enjoyably strong part of this show?
Well, I think it's cool. I like the idea of like siblings being, thick together.
That's just because you're basically an only child for most of your growing up life.
I don't know that that's a completely fair assessment. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but I never have the trials and tribulations that they have. I don't lose my entire body. That's true.
It's fine.
I do think that, that's, talk about a crap deal. Like, this guy loses an arm and a leg. That's pretty crappy. But to lose your entire body, and now your soul's been transfused to a suit of armor, you can never sleep, or eat, or feel warmth, or anything. You're just a suit of armor. That's a pretty crappy deal.
I mean, there's ups and downs with that, right? In the end, yeah, it gets pretty crap. Like, you've been awake for years.
Literal years.
And you can't. There's nothing you can do.
I like to think that he just ate like a ton of food, and then he just crashed.
Well, he would have killed himself, but I mean, he had to. His teeth probably weren't very good. He probably had to deal with that. That's the other weird deal. Like, he's in the other weird world thing. I don't know. Nobody really knows what that is. Like,
yeah.
What is the beyond the gateway thing? Why does the eye of presumably God appear there? But that's also would presumably be the eye of the weird looking kid thing silhouette that appears for everybody. And you're just like, I don't know what this is or where. I don't really get it. Why is his body still over there? Like, why is Alfonso's body still there? Why is it growing and clearly decaying? Like, what would be the point of that?
How does it grow without... Well, I guess the idea is that Ed's body, right, acts as kind of a supplement for it. That is kind of explained. It's a little weird.
That is not explained. That is them pondering. Maybe that's how it is.
Theorizing.
Don't give me that's an explanation of what is happening.
That's them theorizing, which I think is the author telling you that that's what it is.
No.
Yeah.
No. If you're not going to come out and say it, then it's not worth my time. Right? You give me some explicit something somewhere. You don't give me a pondering.
I don't think it has to be explicit. I think it's fun for them to theorize and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Doesn't really make sense, but okay. It makes sense why Ed is short, I guess, as a theory.
Yeah, but he grows taller at some point.
Yeah, he does. Which is kind of also when Al starts to lose control of his functions a little bit more, and he starts kind of slipping back to his body. So...
I don't know about that. I don't remember the timeline well enough for that. Because it's not very interesting. It's not good enough for that. I mean, he starts losing control in Briggs.
Yeah.
And Briggs was better than everything else. That was not a good part of Briggs. The best part of that was when they just left him there, unassembled. And the visual of it was bad because they had him partially assembled, and then the next time he was just not assembled. Like, they just they disassembled him to hurriedly get to the work that they were doing.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll get to you later, bud. That's pretty funny.
Like, okay.
That actually brings up another aspect of the series that is very odd, is its humor. In the beginning, I think most of its humor is pretty bad. I actually think it gets a lot better in the second half. I think it's a little bit more subtle in the second half. It doesn't use the same stupid gag 10 times in a row. And when it does bring it back, it's kind of an in-joke like, oh, we haven't seen that one for a while, have we, kind of thing. And so that's a little bit more forgivable. And I think the situational humor is a little bit better overall, I think the humor gets better, but I think it starts real rough there at the beginning. It's the same. Oh, this kid's short. Oh, look, I thought you were the Fullmetal Alchemist because you're, metal. It's a reasonable assumption, but it's a tired joke.
I can't think of any joke outright that were funny. Like, I feel like there were some things that I laughed at, but I don't remember them being, like, jokes that were made. I remember them being jokes I was making about the show.
Sure, but I think that, like, the armor thing, I think is genuinely funny. Like, him not getting assembled, they're like, oh, we gotta actually figure this thing out real fast after we were just about to put you together. I think that's intentionally funny, but it's not like an outright haha joke, but it's a situational humor that I think works a lot better.
It's only really funny because of the lack of visual failure.
No, I still think it's funny, even.
No. Mm-mm. It's only funny because he gets disassembled, in theory, because he, is disassembled. That's what makes it funny. Well, that's what makes it funny to make fun of, which was the funny part of that. Because really, if it was supposed to be like a super funny thing, you're just breaking tension to break tension. I don't know why you broke tension to reintroduce tension. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because we didn't know how to write or pace things. The theme here is, we suck at pacing and writing scenarios that function and flow fluidly together.
I don't know. I think the pacing has its up and downs. I think there are certainly good moments. I think there are also pretty bad moments. So, like, you get Shao, Tucker, and Nina, which I brought up earlier, which is a pretty famous scene pretty early on. It's like episode 4 or 5, and this guy is like, oh, I make talking chimera. I feel like it doesn't take much to deduce this guy's bad. He looks like a bad guy. He's kind of creepy. His wife mysteriously disappeared when he was last certified. Shocking. And, oh wow. Now, I mean, it's kind of messed up that he uses his own daughter and dog to perform this fusion. But it's so early on that I just don't feel like that's a poor pacing in that it's like, we barely know these characters. We just met these characters. And okay, they have a fatal incident happen, and that's sad, I guess, but if you wanted to make that a big deal, you should have played them up a little bit more.
I just thought it was entirely side, stupid nonsense. But then it comes back at the very end, they're like, we gotta keep going for Nina. Why? Why?
Yeah, we never
Scar killed her. Scar took care of the problem, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate that Scar killed her.
Scar had some mercy, and he just said, done. It's over.
That's also where you're introduced to Scar. Well, I actually think that's a pretty good introduction to Scar, actually. But for the actual subtext of Nina and Shao, not particularly good. It's not paced well to get the feeling you're wanting out of me. I'm not feeling it.
That's a lot of people are like, that's the saddest thing, and you cry. And I appreciate that we set a darker tone, and then we never did anything with it, right? We can't kill anybody for any reason except Hughes.
Yeah, Hughes, and then finally at the end we kill 2 people.
I can only think of 1 right now.
Fu?
Oh yeah. I don't know why I only thought of the Buccaneer kid.
Because they both die at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't remember that Fu also died there.
Yeah. And that's a pretty cool scene. I like how he just stabs the sword through him like, fuck it. You're dying. I'm going to use this. That's pretty cool. I like that.
It was a good deal, right? I appreciate how that was set up. He's pondering it. Like, if I pull the sword out, I'm dead. Like, I will bleed to death.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that we kept that intact.
Yeah.
In that scene.
Yeah.
When, Edward has rebarb through his arm later, not long after, he can pull his arm right off. That is entirely acceptable. No issues.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because it's through his very strong abs that we felt the need to comment on.
Those are some sick abs you got, bro.
I mean, they're sliced through. The sword's going all the way through. His abs have nothing to do with this right now.
Yeah.
Zero things to do with this. But you commented on his abs. That's fine.
Yeah, no, I think that's a cool scene, and I think those 2 deaths are good. But Fu is a side character, and Buccaneer is more relevant somehow. But like that's the big sacrifice is Buccaneer. Like, okay,
Fu is whatever, right? He was there. He was trying to be cool, and he wasn't, and that's fine. He served a lot of other purposes.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but Buccaneer's death was significant because General Armstrong is affected by it. And I appreciate that they bring that up, and she reacts very appropriately, and it's a good deal.
Yeah.
It's a great deal.
Yeah, I think that's a good moment. I also wish we would have killed off a little bit more people.
Oh, you should have killed off some people.
Yeah.
You definitely should have killed off some people. Mustang's team should not have been as big by the end of that.
Yeah, I think you should have lost 2 or 3 at least. Well, I think Havoc should have died from lust. He should have already been dead.
Yeah, Havoc should have already been dead. Risa should have died where she was. Right. Getting her throat slit open. Like, fully. Just full slit. Didn't even matter. She should have definitely been dead. And that would have been a meaningful sacrifice. And it would have been good. Right? Would have been great. But
Sure.
we didn't do that. We just were like, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Who cares?
I don't have a problem with her living because I like her, but I don't disagree that factually it would have been a good sacrifice.
She served her purpose.
Yeah.
We don't need her very much anymore. Like, yeah, she tells him where to fire.
Yeah,
which is
anyone
fine.
could do that.
Right. Well, no. They separated it that it had to be her because she is an exceptional marksman.
Oh,
Right. And so she's saying
that's true.
exactly how far and degree. And,
That's fair.
right. And so I accepted that she had to be the one to do that. That's fine. Now, there's got to be some other people who probably could have done that. But I'm fine with them having their cool little scene and doing their thing. I don't really know why, she can't tell him to fire again after that, but that's...
Let me get your opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any romantic undertone between those two?
Early chronologically, I do.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, no. When they see each other again in the military, it's done. It's gone.
Interesting.
I don't, like, if they ended up as a couple, they ended up as a couple. But I don't really see it. She's married to her dog, which really brings her down a lot. Like, she's at the top of the cliff, but she is...
It's not the highest cliff.
She is not... Nobody accompanied the higher escalon of character goodness here. And major part of that is that she has a dog, and she loves her dog. And I'm like, no, woman, you should have had a cat. One, you are gone all the time. A cat would survive better than your needy, stupid dog.
I don't really have a problem with her dog. I feel like it makes sense for her character. But
no.
I just asked that because I don't really know. I don't have no idea about the fandom for this show or franchise. But I feel like there's probably a pretty big portion of the fan base who probably views them as being like a couple. And I could really see that going either way. I feel like if they did end up together, it'd be like way later. But I could see it just never happening.
No, it doesn't happen, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as like romance goes, the only like really obvious one is like Eric. That's his name. Not Elric. It's Eric. No, Ed and Winry are like the only really obvious.
No.
And like May and like Alphonse.
Yeah, I was just say that is dead obvious.
But those are your major setups, and I think they're fine. I don't have a problem with them being there. They're not like a huge focus of the show, but they act as in like another sort of motivation and connection to like their own life and relationships, and I think that's good.
I mean, him and Winry is whatever. I don't really care. It's fine.
I think it's fine. I think it's good, but
Alphonse and May always was a little weird. So I was like, this is gonna happen. Watch. But she's so young. I don't know how old she is. Yeah, but she looks like a 6-year-old child.
I don't know. I wish I did have I'm gonna guess he's like 9 or 10, which would realistically not be that out because he's only 14. It's like, okay.
I mean, we could pull it up. We could look up May's age right now.
We could.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. So May might be 10. She might be 14. There doesn't seem to be any consensus here from the quick internet search there.
Yeah, that was probably left a little ambiguous on purpose then.
I don't know. She's like, if she's 14, then they're both 14. But then she magically grows a lot.
True.
Right, and most women have reached their full height at 14.
Isn't that kind of sad? That's a young age to reach their full height. Although I actually don't think I was different. I think I was like 16, so.
Yeah, right, you're at your full height around that point.
Yeah.
So that's the deal here. But she grows a lot. Like, she clearly was a child, and then in that final picture, she is like a woman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is several years. But yeah, if she was 14 and now she's 20, it would be that you'd grow 5 feet.
Okay, and if she's 10, and we go by that same logic, then she's like 16.
That'd be appropriate.
Is it, though?
For her height? Yeah.
For her height? But then he is, what is he? He's 20?
16,
going after
20.
a 16-year-old? Mm-hmm.
This is a different time, Nietzsche.
Mm-hmm.
This is a different time. I don't think that'd be as frowned upon back then.
Alphonse is a pedophile.
Okay, well, I'm glad we've established this.
Yep. I've decided now. That's what makes him a worse character.
Okay.
Not the fact that he's kind of whiny a lot. I mean, he's kind of annoying. Just in general. Like, he's just kind of an annoying person.
Annoying.
He's kind of mopey. And I get it. But, like, buddy, I need you to not mope as much. And you're not very useful a lot. Like, you're kind of just like a shield often. And I feel like that's just like he's a suit of armor. He has to be a shield. Okay.
Well, it's a pretty useful ability.
It's not even an ability. It's just who he is. Okay.
I like Alphonse, actually. I think I like that he's a little bit more as a dynamic. So Edward's kind of a punk. Alphonse is a little bit more respectful towards his elders. He's a little bit more kind. He's a bit more like, I'll remember and use your name. And I like that he's the kinder one. And he's a bit more naive. Well, they're both kind of naive. But he's more naive, I think. And yet, I do agree that he whines a little bit here and there. But I generally at least understand it. Like, okay, yeah, kind of a bad situation. I don't know that I'd hold up very well either. So I can give him the pass on that. But in general, I think his character's good.
No, I was just kind of bored with him. No, he was kind of whiny and annoying. And I didn't help him at all. And he's there all the time because he's one of the main protagonists.
Yeah.
Right? And so is Ed. And I'm like, oh, you're not pleasant. You're just some punk kid. And you grow at the very end. Like, you have some real growth. And, like, I respect some of your decisions. You do some cool things. When you have, Gorilla and whatever, Gorilla and Lion Kid, pull the thing out of you. That's ridiculous. But it's fine. It worked.
It's a cool scene.
Right. I appreciate that you saved them and made that work. Why we set up the Philosopher's Stone thing there and then didn't return to it for, like, forever?
A long time.
Well, I forgot that's who had the stone. I was like, it's there, but I don't remember who even has it anymore. Like, I don't even remember who was there until I really think about it. And I'm like, okay, great. Also, Kimberly is not worried about that. He's not like, oh, I lost a stone.
Yeah, he has his stone. He doesn't care. He's like, whatever. There's a million of these bad boys around.
But maybe in his world, I don't know. But yeah, neither brother. I was like, I'm not attached. I don't care. I really don't care about anything about you guys. You're just boring. You're not exciting. Like, I didn't really believe that Edward would not kill people. Like, it's just kind of there. It's just kind of like, yep, I don't kill people. There's no lead up. There's nothing to that. Right? And it just causes complications in a lot of scenes that I feel like didn't need to become convoluted and complicated. And I'm like, okay. Like, sometimes it leads to some ingenious type deals where he makes the ammonia, which would have definitely killed him and them. But that's irrelevant. It worked, and it was a nice, we'll say, humane way, even though they would have died.
But they survived, so,
Yeah, they lived, and it's fine. It's whatever, right?
Yeah.
We rule cooled that, and I couldn't take that. That's below the threshold, because I wasn't very engaged.
Sure.
But yeah, you do some neat things like that. But for the most part, it's like, why aren't you going to kill these people? Like, I feel like you've indirectly killed a lot of people, right? I feel like this is kind of like Batman over here. Like, Batman doesn't kill people, but, like, he's indirectly killed some people.
True.
And if the laws of physics worked in Gotham, then you definitely kill a lot of people, okay?
Well, Gotham exists on a different plane of existence.
That's fair. Whereas, Edward, I'm like, you definitely have injured some people or done some bad things, right? Like, I don't know, I don't get it. Like, I can kind of get, like, I don't want to kill, samurai armor suit kid. Has, like, a connection, like, to his brother type thing, and, like,
yeah.
Like, that's fine, that's an emotive point that I can understand. But you don't give a reason why you're not going to kill people. It's like, I don't kill people.
Hey, he doesn't like killing.
It's not an enjoyable thing. I feel like that could have been a really good growth deal.
Him killing someone?
Yeah. Him having to go through that because, like, he talks with Riza about the war and, like,
Yeah.
Like, that's a great representation of how, like, war changes people. A+ in this show. That was great. really did good on that.
I think it would have been cool if he had to kill somebody eventually.
Yeah, and I feel like you set that up to where he should have had to kill someone.
Yeah, I agree. I would have liked that. I don't have a problem with him being someone who doesn't like to kill. I think that's fine. I definitely thought you were not going to like this character, though. I definitely was like,
I mean, I didn't assume I'd like a lot of people. I chose Riza, like, from scene 1, though. I was like, Riza, you're my girl. I didn't really believe that was going to pan out, but it did.
You do have an uncanny knack sometimes of just picking, like, that's the character I'm going to cheerlead for some reason.
Yeah, and it worked out this time pretty well. Most of the time it does work out. Yeah. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you just pick them and you're like,
bad idea.
That did not end well.
But you got to commit.
Sometimes, yeah. But Riza was great. Like, her whole reminiscent of the war and, like, her whole deal about, like, being a sniper. Like, you know you killed them.
Oh, yeah.
You saw it. I was like, that's a really, like, grand, insightful point, actually. Like, I feel like, yeah, like, as an infantryman, you could probably get away with, like, maybe I didn't kill those people, right? If you really needed that as a coping mechanism for, you know, the horrors of war. But as a sniper, like, you can't get away with that.
Nope.
Like, you sat there, you watched them through the scope fall and die.
Yep.
You shot to kill, and then now they're dead. Yep.
Yeah,
like, that was a really great moment. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Now, I think Riza is a good character. I don't think she's the best character in this show. I don't think she's relevant enough for me to really care that much about her. But I do think she's a pretty cool character. I like how she like admonishes Mustang when he lies, just straight out lies to the brothers. He's like, no, that's messed up. You shouldn't have done that. I like that. I like how she's intelligent and she's pretty damn skilled, but she's also like believably human and like, you know, not just a stoic person that has no emotion. Like, she cares. Like, I think she's a pretty well-rounded character. And she works really well, I think, as like Mustang's second. I think that's a pretty good dynamic for them. I think she's good, but I don't think she's amazing.
She's not amazing because she chose a dog.
I don't think her having a cat would have elevated her.
Her having a cat would have elevated her. Like, she's like a 7 out of 10. Right? She meets the threshold of good.
Uh-huh.
She could have been 8.5 or 9 if she had a cat.
If only. That's stupid. But no.
That's not stupid. That's the facts of the universe. The universe has decreed that cats are the best.
Mm-hmm.
And I need some support. I need some people to comment and back me up here about how cats are far superior to every other animal. Somebody is. But I've also I already opened the door for, like, the dog lovers of America to come through and just be like,
Bludgeon you?
No! Risa having a dog was the best. It was so cute and great and her. That's what they're going to sound like, by the way.
Like a dog yipping.
I guess that's what that sounded like.
Well, maybe. Anyway, back to Edward.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is a decent lead.
Mm.
I agree. I do wish he had killed somebody. I actually think that would have been way better. But he doesn't. Not the biggest deal. My problem is more with the inconsistency. Because I like him most of the time. I think they do some fun things. I like how when he uses his alchemy in kind of pedestrian ways, like when he fixes the railing, like that for the woman, like the railing just has like skulls and shit on it. Like it's kind of a funny little show not tell kind of moment. I like that. Or like when he hides the car or whatever, it's just this ridiculous monster. It's like, well, that couldn't be the vehicle we were chasing. No, probably not. So I kind of like that. I think that's pretty cool. I like his look a lot. I think the coat's really cool. His red coat. I just feel like... I also actually like his kind of like rebellious attitude with the... Like, I love how he just keeps calling Darius, the gorilla...
Is that actually his name? Because it's used like 3 times and I had already decided his name was Gorilla.
Yeah, it's Darius. And I like how he just consistently calls him Mr. Gorilla. All the way through. Never gives him his real name. That's pretty funny. I think that's... Like, he's just like, nah, I'm going to use my nicknames. I think that's pretty funny. But, I don't know. I really feel like it's... I just don't feel like they set him up in the beginning well. Like, I just feel like I don't have a good read on this character until way later. like exactly like what lengths he's willing to go to. Because okay, you won't kill. You don't want to use the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, but he does want to use the Philosopher's Stone before he finds that out.
Right, and that's. But once he finds out what it is, he's like, well, we no longer want to use that. We'll find a different way. That's a fair, admirable point. So you won't go that far, but you'll go super far. I don't know. I just feel like I don't have the greatest read on him.
He doesn't seem consistent. He also, like, introduces that he doesn't want to kill people really, really late in comparison to, like, some of the things that have happened. It's not like, so Trigun, he is a pacifist, right? He didn't kill nobody.
Right.
Except maybe his brother at the end. All the spoilers.
I mean, that's old as hell.
It is really old. But he establishes that from the beginning, right? And it's done really well in, like, he's shooting guns out of people's hands and stuff, and, like, he is the coolest shot there ever was.
Right.
Because anime. But it's funny, and it works.
And it also plays into the fact that he doesn't kill, so his pinpoint accuracy is, like, a necessary skill.
Yeah, right, that works. It's set up really early, and it's consistent up until, questionably the end, however that goes. But the ending of that is really bad. But that works there. It doesn't work with good old Edward here, where it's like, I don't know. I mean, it seemed like you were just doing things and being a kid and taking things out and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, he's definitely kind of a punk. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But it's like, you see him with his trial to become a state alchemist, right? And he creates a spear. And he makes a spear in, like, Lior to fight this chimera. And so he makes all these, like, deadly weapons and, like, threatens the using them, but isn't going to follow through with them. So, like, okay, I guess he doesn't want to kill, but I don't really know if we're just not trying to go that dark right now. And then you're going to defame this priest guy, and that's fine. Causes some problems, but fairly you didn't realize that would cause riots in the end. That's not really his fault. But I don't really understand what he's like. You mean to get your bodies back. Great. You don't want to use body. Or, like, you don't want to harm people in doing it, but you definitely do harm people. I don't know. I just feel like it's not super consistent. I don't feel like he's set up well enough at the beginning. I like him a lot more later on. But again, I generally think the second half is stronger anyway, and we start to get a lot better early on, like with his trainer and stuff. I appreciate, talking to his teacher, and you find out how I don't know if it was like a stillbirth or like the kid died as an infant, I don't really know. But like she tried to do human transmutation on her baby. Like you get some interesting connections. I like how he seems accustomed to, like, horrific things, but you've had, like, your one horrific event in life, and it's pretty messed up. But, like, you seem really okay with seeing some people die later on. Like, well, you seem torn up about Nina, but it seems more like because he's a kid, not because it's a person dying. Like, I feel like you see other people die, and you kind of just brush it off. Well, that sucks. But, I don't know, I just feel like it's not a great consistency. Or at least the setup is really bad. And then I think it gets a lot better later on.
I'd stopped caring. I'd really stopped caring. I was just waiting for Riza to come back. And then we got Briggs, and I really like General Armstrong.
She's pretty cool.
She's good. She's like a 6. But she's introduced too late.
Nah, it's pretty late.
And she's your waifu.
It's
because she's got the big lips.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So.
Yeah.
It was important that the audience knows that you really think big-lipped women are where it's at.
Sure. If I think that, they'll know that.
They do know that now.
Okay, well.
General Armstrong is your waifu. I don't ever remember what her first name actually is.
Olivier?
Is it? I thought there was an R in there.
It is, but it's silent.
The R is not silent. Nope. That makes me think less of her.
Okay.
She should have picked a better name.
Well, that's how it works. We pick our own names after.
Look, she is a woman that if she didn't like her name, she would have changed her name.
I don't know.
She's a pretty headstrong, wonderful person like that.
Uh-huh.
But really, like, her whole deal is, like, I like her leadership.
Mm-hmm.
It really saves her a lot.
Yeah, I figured.
Yep. Yeah, I like people who have good leadership.
I understand.
And she really accomplishes a lot. But she is, like, real bloodthirsty.
Oh, yeah. She has no problems. Some of her scenes are pretty cool. I would just stab you through the arm.
Yeah, I don't know why
stab you in the foot. Whatever.
Yeah, she's mean. I just like where she buries the kid in the foundation.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, oh, yeah. Well, we will definitely do that, guys. Let's do that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, woman, I don't know what you're planning, but it's going to be good. And then she just throws him right in. I was like, okay.
I mean, she's pretty brutal, but
yeah, she knows what's up. And I appreciate that. But that's all she really is.
Oh,
like, there's no more substance to her, which is why she doesn't get to be higher than that. She's above the average, but not by enough.
I think that's fair.
So, yeah, her leadership's great. She leads Briggs to victory.
She does?
All the time.
Presumably.
All the time. She is better than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not true. There are 2 people who are above her, but that's it.
Well, other than Risa, who's above her?
Who do you think is above her? I'm just curious.
I was trying to guess, but I don't know.
You don't got anything?
I'm not confident.
Who do you think?
My initial guess was going to be May, but I was like,
Whew.
I don't think so.
Whew. We're kind of close. Ling is my friend. I like Ling.
See, that one was one I thought maybe, because he has some interesting ideas. But I was also like, you might really dislike him. I had no confidence.
I don't like greed, mind you. I don't like greed. I do like Ling.
Yeah, well, they're separate characters.
Right? Ling knows what's up. He sacrifices it all for his people.
Okay.
I really like the line, right? I really like the line, the people are above him in leadership, right? That's important. That's a very good life skill. If you're going to be in leadership, if you don't have people to lead, you're not going anywhere. People have to follow you for you to be a leader. And he understood that, and he stuck with it. And he was kind of annoying at first, right? I was like, oh, buddy, okay, you're kind of a swindler and a jerk to be a jerk. And then he really comes into his own and he figures it out.
See, this is where I was like, this is a character where going in, I saw him. Like, I remembered he exists because it's been a long time since I've devoured this, content. But I saw him and I'm like, my initial thought was, I don't know that you're going to like this person. But I do know what he does later, and I thought you would maybe like that one aspect. But I didn't know if you would, because I think the initial impression of him is meant to be kind of, this guy is kind of questionable. And I didn't think it would necessarily go beyond that impression. So I was not confident in that. But I did think it was a possible choice.
Yeah, Ling is good. May is not good. She's fine. She is serviceable.
Okay. I only thought maybe her because you had said something way earlier in this show, that you kind of liked her at the beginning. But again, that was first impression stuff. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to hold through. I didn't think it necessarily would.
The one thing I really like is her confidence with Scar. She's like, yeah, buddy, we are friends. Let's do it. But then that's never played up again. Then we move on, and she's just there. She's a serviceable person.
Okay.
She exists.
Fair enough.
At an ambiguous age.
Sure. Fair enough. Ling, I like Ling actually a fair bit. I think he's a pretty cool character. Because for a long time, you're really like, I don't know how much I can trust you. You seem like you're really just here for your information. You're kind of honest about that in your own way, really. You're always up in the food tab. You got no problem doing that.
Dude, he brings it back. He's like, hey, I owe you.
Yeah.
Later, right? He owns up to himself later.
Yeah.
And that really saves it a lot.
Yeah, I think he's a character that you need the full development of to really appreciate. And I think that's pretty cool. I think it's interesting how he's like, yeah, I'll accept a frickin' homunculus, no problem.
Yeah. He decided he was good enough to be able to take this and lead. And he does it.
Yeah.
He holds on and he makes it work. And Greed, saves him in the end.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that Greed was a nice person like that. I don't appreciate that he lied in the end, necessarily. But you could also argue he didn't lie. It's a whole weird, ambiguous deal that I'm like, I'm not going to fault you for it. Because your character is no better or worse. It's fine.
Alright, well, let's talk about the homunculus a little bit then.
Well, we talked about Lust and how good she was.
You like Lust.
I liked Lust. I wish we had more.
You're indifferent about Greed. Or...
Greed is really kind of annoying. Basically at all times. I'm just like, I don't care. I get it. I feel like yours is the best showcase of the actual, sin part of it. Like, yeah, greed will always want more and more and more, and it will never be good enough. But we made that point, and then we kept making that point, and I didn't care. I moved on. I didn't want to deal with him anymore.
I don't like Les as much as you. I don't think she gets enough time to shine to really come out and make any amazing impression. I like how she, like, is watching them through, like, Havoc a little bit, right? For like, their first date kind of thing. I think that's kind of a cool little twist. But that's all she's got. Otherwise, I don't think she's really that interesting. I think Greed is good. I think he's a good character. I like his character because he's self-motivated for himself. His interest isn't with the homunculus or humans necessarily. It's with what he can get. And then, he makes some friends. That's what he says at the end, right? And I think that's pretty good. I like Greed. Sloth. I don't really like Sloth.
I appreciate the voice acting of Sloth a lot. It really sold it for me. His part in the story is really stupid. And him being the fastest, also really stupid.
Yeah. It's
right.
kind of dumb. We should also note we watched this in Japanese with English subtitles.
They will always be in Japanese.
Just making the point nonetheless.
Yeah. I don't know what the English voices are.
No idea.
They're probably not good. I know one of them is Vic Mignogna, which means it's probably a decent voice for Edward. But I don't actually know that because I guess he was a very talented voice actor. I don't know if he's able to do anything anymore. Right. Irrelevant. Sloth is a plot device. Like, attacking people was fine. Him, like, not able to be scratched by anything, really questionable and weird. Right? Like, you took a cannon a tank shot to the gut, buddy. Like, if it was like all the other homunculus where he just, like, regenerates it, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But then, like, the rocks coming out of the ground stab him. Are we for real? Like, Please be consistent. Right? So I don't hate him as a character, but his whole plot device and use in the story is bad.
What do you think of his design?
It's fine.
I don't really care. I don't like the weird... like, his right eye isn't really an eye. It's just this weird, like, red...
Yeah, they all have that somewhere on their body.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really like his design very much. I like when they freeze him. I think that's pretty cool. Like, that's a pretty good countermeasure, I think, against something like that. But I think he's by far the weakest of all the homunculus. But alright.
That's not true.
But then we get Gluttony.
Yeah, I'm glad we brought up Gluttony, because he is the weakest link. Gluttony is annoying. His voice, god-awful. Like, I understand that is a good choice for what you wanted out of that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. But it's ear-grating.
You don't want to listen to it.
I don't want to listen to that. I don't want to listen to country music ever again, but I'm going to listen to it tomorrow at work. Don't you worry. But I never have to listen to Gluttony speak again, which is a very positive thing. Gluttony, the sound of Gluttony's voice in country music might be on the same level.
Okay.
They're really annoying, and I hated it. All you country music fans out there need to encourage country music to be better than it is. End of that tangent. Gluttony sucks. He just eats things, and that's fine, but he, like, eats people, and he has a whole world inside, and it's weirdness, and it's very poorly explained, and it's like, I don't understand. Like, when were you made? Why do you have parts of, like, the whatever country Xerxes was in charge of? Because I would just like to say Persia, because that's historically accurate for our stuff, but that's not necessarily how that went. And I'm like, why? I don't understand. Why do you eat a bunch of things? Like, I don't care. His design is really stupid. I really wish we could have seen him, like, actually eat someone. But you just kind of see him with blood on him or standing over something. You don't get to see him, like, rip something apart and just eat it.
That would have been pretty brutal.
I wanted it to be brutal.
So, I mean, that's fair.
Brutal, and then we never delivered on real brutality.
I don't hate Gluttony. I think he's a little... I feel like he should have died earlier. Like, he's around for a long time.
He did die early. Esque.
And then he's brought back.
Which we don't see.
So I don't know. His voice doesn't really bother me. Country music also doesn't bother me.
You haven't listened to it for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
I have, Nietzsche. But besides the point, I don't think Gluttony's that terrible. I like his design when his stomach opens. I think that's kind of cool. But his normal design, It's okay. It works, I guess. But I think he's kind of a boring homunculus.
He's the weakest link. He should have died out or, like, went crazy once Lust went away. Because he was so attached to Lust.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That works as a dynamic. He's more like a pet. And she is just a jerk and an evil, incarnate woman. Yeah. And that's fine. That worked. And then he was bored. Well, he was never exciting. But then he served no real purpose. Right? Mm-hmm. There was that. But then what do you got? You got... We'll go Envy.
Envy,
yeah.
Okay.
And Envy... I hate the design of Envy. A whole lot.
Which form? Or all forms?
All of it.
All of them.
And, well, I mean, when he impersonates other people, that's fine. But him as a weird, giant, crazy green thing, as Godzilla, but not as cool, like, whatever. Okay, and then a small, fetus Godzilla, also not that great. But then the normal design, it's just kind of stupid looking. The hair. It's really about the hair. The hair reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh! Every time. And it's like, why? Please stop.
He pulls out a card. That would have been great.
Yeah, no. No, it's bad. It's really bad. But he's not that interesting. I appreciate, like, how they use him. And, like, how he, like, turns into Hughes' wife. Right? That was good. I like that. Good. I like that as a deal. But
I think Envy is one of the better ones. I don't think he's the best. I don't know who I think the best is. But I think he's one of the better ones. His design in his, we'll say, human form it's fine. I don't really care either way. His hair is pretty stupid. I agree with that. But I don't really care either way. His bigger form, I don't think it's Godzilla.
It looks like Godzilla.
It just doesn't look like Godzilla to me at all. But whatever. It's fine. I think it's kind of neat to see. Like, you see a real variety within all of them. So I think it's kind of cool in that sense. I actually think his true self is kind of a cool little design. Just because I like the way they, like, animate him, like, rolling around and, like, messing around and stuff. I think that's kind of neat. And I think his character is a bit more developed of the homunculus. You kind of know, you know a fair bit about him. His kind of personality, how he acts, and I think he's generally a pretty fun character on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Envy. I particularly like, he's pretty sadistic in his own way. Him using Hugh's wife as, a way to kill him is pretty cool. I wish he had done more of that. Like, for somebody who can transform into anybody, he doesn't do it all that often. Like, he walks around as, like, a military officer sometimes. Great. Like, that's useful. But, like, I feel like he should have tried to infiltrate more often as whatever. So I feel like that's a little underutilized. But I actually think he's a pretty alright character.
He's fine. Right? He serves his purpose. There's a lot of people who just serve their purpose in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And he is definitely one of them. I like that he commits suicide at the end.
Rips out his stone.
But I hate the inconsistency of that. Because Lust has no stone. Right, Mustang has burned all the flesh off of that.
Well, he burns the stone, right?
And he grabs the stone, and then she forms around the stone.
Yeah, but when he finishes her off, like he kills off the souls within her.
Yeah.
You see the stone disintegrate.
Yeah, like it does normally, but when Havoc should be dead, he has a hold of the stone.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else attached to it. It just regrows her? Like, that seems really weird.
Okay.
Right? But then Envy can just pull his stone out and it's fine.
I would think it was because he was on his, like, last life kind of thing. And she wasn't.
I don't know. It's a weird deal, and maybe that works. But I was like, okay, at least you decided. You were done. You exited. That's fine.
Yeah. Roy really fucks him up a little bit. Burns his eyes constantly. Oh my god. That's pretty brutal. I like that scene. Just, I'm gonna kill this dude.
I mean, he's going insane, and I think that's fine. That works.
I think that's a cool scene.
It really, really works pretty well for the aggression that you built up about Hughes. We could have just not had that there. You'd be fine. Could have made it Havoc.
Could have.
Lust could have lived. Could have been fine. Would have been great.
There's a lot of things you could have done.
But you didn't do a lot of great things. I like Envy in the jar when May is underground, very specifically before he, gets his stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
Because the animation of that is grand. Where she's just like kicking that up and doing all the coolest things. And I was like, props to you. That's some quality animation.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I actually think the animation in the show holds up pretty dang well.
It's decent animation.
Yeah.
I don't have any real issues with it. Except, Envy has a good point where I think the animation really fails in Godzilla form.
Oh, yeah, it's not great. But I also think, like, the zombie army at the end, they look a little...
They're fine.
Yeah, better than they could have, but not great. Anyway, then we get Pride.
Well, Pride next, huh?
Yeah.
My whole deal with Pride is that the fetus thing really bothers me. I can't get past that that's how that ends. Pride as a character is like, okay, you're a sadistic mean child. I guess, kind of. I don't understand exactly how your powers really work.
Mm.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, we tried to place some limitations on it. By like, you have to be within the ring that Sloth has created, or in Central. It's kind of a weird.
Is he within the ring? Right?
Because the shadows are.
Because he gets to go out into the forest.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where I was confused as to the limitation with Hohenheim. Where he's like, you can't go any further. What do you mean? What? How can he not go any further? Lior. Because he's going back into Lior. So Lior would be within the circle, which is why that doesn't work.
Well, I think the tunnel itself.
You think just the tunnel, except he goes into the forest.
Well, that's where I think it gets weird. I don't know if that's his powers from a remote distance being like, I can only work within this. Or if it's like, if my body was at Lior, that would be a different story. I do not know. It is not explained.
It's not explained because we didn't want to explain a lot of things.
Right. So I think that's problematic. When did you figure out who he was?
Not early. Like, I thought that was a good point in the show. I thought that was a good twist. I felt like that was a real twist. I didn't see that coming.
So, okay. So, like, when Riza finds out is when you find out?
Yeah, when Riza figures it out, I'm like, okay, well,
okay.
I got it.
Because I didn't get any, I didn't know what your reaction, because he made no reaction. And I was like, did you figure this out or not? I couldn't tell. I didn't figure it out originally until it was revealed. So I think it's pretty cool. I think his design's pretty good. I like how his design can look very kid-like and then look very like, well, you're possessed, like. And I think that's a pretty good artistic talent, actually. And then I think his powers visually are cool. I do agree they are not explained very well. But whatever, I do think visually they're pretty cool. I like when he's fighting there at the end in the forest. I think he's a pretty threatening menace. I like how he just stands there and takes the hits. Like he's getting back up. Like, eventually I'm gonna kill you. I think that's pretty cool. Like, he seems to have some pretty decent self-control. He eats gluttony without really any hesitation. Like, he clearly thinks himself above the rest of the homunculus. I don't know about maybe Wrath, but the rest, I think he definitely thinks himself above them. And he's like the first homunculus. You see that he's been in this child form for a long time. I think he's a pretty intriguing one. I wish we had gotten more about him, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
That would have been boring.
No, I actually think that would have been pretty cool.
I didn't need more Pride. His counterpart, though, gets all the screen time. Good old Wrath. And I was just like, okay, that's cool. Like, I didn't think he was a homunculus, but I very early was like, you're a bad person.
Sure.
Like, scene 1, you're a bad person.
Scene 1, what is it for scene?
Isn't he talking to Mustang or about Mustang or something? Like, just the voice of it said, you're a bad person.
Okay.
Everything about it said, you're bad auditorily. And I never believed he was good. I didn't necessarily go in believing that he was, like, exactly on the enemy side. But he wasn't a good person.
He wasn't an ally.
Yeah, he was never going to be a good person.
Okay. But did you see that did you figure out he was a homunculus before that was officially revealed?
No.
So you weren't very good on, like, figuring out the homunculus reveals?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I mean, those are the only real 2 reveals you got, right? Because greed just outright is like, boom.
Yeah, I mean...
Right. Lust is always introduced that way. Gluttony is always introduced that way.
Envy
is always introduced that way.
Yeah, I guess the only real twist you have is with Lust. Lust and Havoc, which you said you didn't really see until it was revealed. But that's not like her being a homunculus, that's just how it was used. So yeah, I guess it really is just those two.
Yeah, but Wrath is there. He's a bad person, and he's a little ridiculous. Like, just the level at which he is so amazingly great is just a little too much.
He just runs out of tank and chases it up this elevator and then destroys it, gets up to the top. No, there's nothing.
Even before the tank, though. Like, it's utilized too often about how amazingly great he is, right? He's just like the coolest of cool and the greatest thing that's ever graced any level of swordsmanship in the entire universe, 12 universes over. Like, that's how great he is, and I'm like, nope, it's not doing it. It's not Lanvon over here. Also, she can be on the same level as General Armstrong.
Okay.
Just for context. But she clearly does some ridiculous things, primarily the end, where she outruns the machine gun up the wall nonsense.
That was Fu.
Oh, no, that was Fu. You're right. No, you're right. But she does ridiculous things. Cuts off her own arm or whatever, and, like, she's the coolest thing ever. She dodges his attacks. Like,
I really like the arm scene where she cuts off her arm and then ties it to the dog.
If we had seen that, it would have been better.
Oh, I like how it's done as, like, a reveal. I think that's pretty cool.
No, her arm should have been cut off. Because it looked like she was going to kill herself, not like she was going to cut her arm off. So if you showed me her arm getting cut off, and then, right, the next time I see her arm, it's attached to a dog with Wrath finding it, it's fine. But don't, like, tease she's killing herself out of her, like, weird, honor system here. And then don't commit, right?
I just never... that's not the impression I originally got from that scene, so that's just not what I...
The lines are like, I'm just dead weight and gonna die, like, you just need to leave me. She pulls out a knife, and then he's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
How do you not read that as, I'm killing myself so you will leave me behind?
Because I don't believe they're gonna kill him. Because it's a shonen, at the end of the day... And she did not just commit suicide. And so that's my problem is I'm too experienced with the realm of anime, manga, and the fake suicide stuff. Cut to black. Yeah, give me a break.
I mean, I didn't believe she was dead. But I am going to argue that they intended for her to act like she was killing herself. And I would rather have seen the arm get cut off. And then we could blacken that screen out. That'd be a different story, right? That makes it seem like she's just trying to further the wound and maybe kill herself, and then it feels more creative and we did something cool. But we didn't do that. Whatever. Anyway, she was cool, and she's believable because she does cool things sparingly.
Yeah, she's a cool character. But
right. Wrath, on the other hand, always at 5,000% of how great he is.
When he fights Greed, the first time you meet Greed in the tunnel sewers, he's just like over here just taking him out with his 4 swords. Just like, whatever. You're nothing to me. Like, it's a good showcase there, I think, of like his strength. But when he comes in at the end, it is like, okay, you're pretty cool. And I kind of like it, but I don't disagree that it's a little over the top. I like it mainly because I think it provides a cool scene with Buccaneer and Fu. I think that's a good scene. And it leads to something cool with it. I also like when he loses his sword, but he's like, that's fine, I'm just going to take these daggers. I'm not super experienced with these, but good enough. And then he kicks some ass with it. I think that's pretty cool, too.
That's part of the problem. He, at any point that he touches any weapon, he's the coolest person ever. Like, he's so amazingly great. But his whole deal at the end, where he's just like the coolest thing ever, I'm just like, you dodge bullets. But it's inconsistent, because he, takes the eye patch off, that helps him, and he's so much cooler now. But he's already super cool before that. It doesn't make me feel like the eye is not in use at all times anyway.
That's fair.
People fire bullets from behind you, and you magically dodge those.
That's fair.
Please, buddy.
No. The eye patch itself as a utility doesn't seem to be that useful.
But it works as a blind spot, and I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Be consistent, please.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which makes Wrath not great. He's just too blown up all the time.
He's certainly a very significant character as an antagonist, right? Because he runs the city, the country. He's the king, or Fur.
He is Fur King Bradley.
Yeah, that's quite the title.
King is a part of his name.
Yeah. And so I think
as like a, I like that he's like the big head honcho, and he's like, I like how deep the conspiracy goes through everything. I think that's pretty cool. But you only really see his threatening side, like, when he fights Greed in there at the end. Like, you never have anybody go, you're like, maybe I could take this guy. Like, none of Roy's squad or anybody's like, what if we just kill this guy? It's never brought up as a solution. Like, I feel like you could have at least got him to go somewhere, because he would be so confident, and then you never had to, like, an attempt on his life. You're always just like, well, we can't even go up at that avenue. But it never shows that they know how strong he is, because he's at the top. I doubt, like, even during, like, the Isfahan Civil War, I doubt he was on the field slaying people all the time. Like, he would have been the overseer.
He kills that one kid in the alley. Remember that? That's like the first time you really see him do something cool, because that's before Greed, I'm pretty sure.
Is that the first episode?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it is.
See, that's where I have trouble, is because that episode is just such a weird thing.
Yeah, because he comes in and he wrecks shop. Yeah. So it establishes that he is a cool guy. Right, but it really just establishes him as like a samurai until Greed, and then, Greed is like four-sword weirdness, and Greed can't just put the shield up over himself at all times because nonsense reasoning. That really kills that. Like, you are impenetrable except for, the weirdness of alchemy nonsense, but we don't see, good old King Bradley using the alchemy. You could have just, bodysuited it up.
Sure.
Walked right in there. It would have been fine.
Yeah.
But you didn't do that. You had to let other people die.
Yeah.
Good job, Greed.
Yeah, I don't know. Wrath is a weird one. As a whole, I think the Homunculus are actually a pretty cool antagonistic group. I do like them as a group. I think it's, like, sufficiently threatening, and they're kind of scary in their own way. They're diverse, and they have their kind of own goals within each other. I think they're pretty cool. I don't think Father, or Dwarf in a Flask, is a very good antagonist, though. I think he's actually pretty boring. Like, his relationship with Hohenheim and, like, that part, like, the flashback of what happens is pretty okay. Everything else, though, like, when we're seeing Father underground for the first time, I don't know, he's kind of boring.
He's boring because he doesn't do anything. He's made these things, which we're not really sure exactly how that works, or how he takes his own emotions out, or desires, or whatever, and throws them into these other people. But that's part of the problem, is I wanted an explanation on that, and I never got one. I also feel like the threat level of the Homunculus really dies out when Lust dies. Because she's out there doing the dirty work. She is killing people and behind the scenes and really laying it in and striking fear down, right? She's cool. But then she's dead, and they kind of just back off for a while. They don't really do much, right? And so it really felt like she was the spearhead, right? And that's how it went, which I guess is how it was supposed to work, with her being the spear weird thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Spear fingers over there, because she was cool.
I suppose that's a good point. I think Roy Mustang's powers are just a little overpowered for, like, relevance within, like, the alchemist circles. Like, because realistically, you have, like, Alex Armstrong, who makes rockets out of the rubble that he throws up or whatever. He doesn't seem particularly creative or super skilled as an alchemist. You have Fullmetal, who seems skilled and very knowledgeable and smart, and he's pretty clever, but he's not really, like, exceptionally dangerous because he won't kill, which is a pretty big problem when fighting these things. And then there's just also the fact that, like, he doesn't do a whole lot that makes him a particularly great fighter. He seems like he would actually be a really great support person, and, like, a backup and, like, creative and whatnot, but not, like, as the gun himself. And then you got, like, Alphonse, who is better, but you don't even really get that confrontation. What other alchemists do you really have?
You have a bunch of the small ones that,
Scar kills.
Yeah, Scar kills and takes out.
Yeah, I guess they had some pretty interesting things, but Scar's just fucking takes them all out.
Yeah, which makes the ending more unbelievable.
With what part?
With the failure wraths.
Oh, okay.
Where he's just like, oh, I guess I'm not good enough anymore.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that Wrath is way better than all these punks.
Yeah, but the fake wraths, like, he
the
can't
fake
kill
wraths.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
The failure
that's
wraths.
fair, yeah. It does seem like Scar's consistency of strength is brought down a little bit for that.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like everybody else's except Riza's.
Yeah.
But that's fun. Yeah, you see a bunch of those kids that he kills. Kimberly.
Oh,
But
yeah,
Kimberly
Kimberly.
is basically always with the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah. I mean, he's a psychopath.
I mean, he might as well be a psychopath. That is very true. Isn't he talking to some other kid at the very beginning too? I also forget that Kimberly is even in the beginning.
It's a really stupid thing.
There's another alchemist kid. I don't remember exactly. And you get Marco. He's on the opposite end, but he's a skilled. He's a skilled alchemist.
True, but not in a fighting way.
Not it's the opposite end, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, then you get like May as like an alchemy user.
Alchemy. That's how I always read that. But.
So I mean, it's fair, but that's a different system.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. She's cool. She takes things out, but
Well, she's pretty skilled.
you know, like her combat is cool, but she in and of herself is not that cool. And then, but Mustang's whole deal is that he gets the secret from Riza's back, which we show burned way earlier. Like, way earlier.
Takes a long
Like, the
time.
first scene you get of any kind of, like, TNA type shots is Riza in the shower for the purpose of showing that her back has the thing and is burned.
Yeah.
We haven't explained what that is, and then we explain what it is, and then it's like 15 episodes later. Oh, well, I need you to burn this. Okay. Like, that's a key example of how pacing and storytelling was really bad. Like, that's pretty much the pinnacle of, like, really egregious, but it did these types of things often.
We set it up early. Don't give any answers till much later.
And it wasn't even, like, really that burned. Like,
Yeah.
it's burned in a spot,
Yeah.
and it clearly looks really painful.
Probably was.
But, like,
I guess it's good enough though, right?
is it good enough? I don't know what I'm looking at. You didn't tell me what I'm looking at. I don't understand.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Like, I couldn't just piece the rest together?
I don't know.
That guy figured it out?
Yeah, but it's like his life's work and like
Why did he tattoo it on his
masterpiece.
daughter?
Yeah, because he seems like a weird person too.
Like she just, like, laid down and accepted that? And she had to have been an adult, otherwise her skin would have stretched and
Right.
it wouldn't have worked, right?
Right.
So it had to have been semi-recent. Buddy, that whole deal is really weird. It's not good.
Yeah, that's fair. But overall, I think the alchemists aren't like. I think Mustang is easily the most powerful.
Like, it's handicapped.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
And he still blows things up.
Yeah. Well, his other handicap is it's raining.
Yeah, but that makes 0 sense, okay? All he needs is friction. It makes 0 sense.
He
can't
snaps and creates things.
snap his finger. Yeah, if you would explain the limitations, like, because the glove is wet.
Also, fire can also exist in rain.
I understand. Okay?
Yeah, it's very weird.
They didn't understand. But the scene where he fails the first time is a great introduction for Riza.
Oh yeah.
I just like that she slides in there, knocks him on his feet, and then fires. And I'm like, yep, you look cool.
Yeah.
That makes 0 sense. But you look really cool, woman.
Sure.
I will rule cool your wonderfulness right there.
If he's underwater, yeah, it's completely fair to be like, all right, well, the flames aren't going to be produced. I would at least be accepting of that.
If there's something flammable in that water and you create friction.
Well, if there's oil in the water or something. But if it's just water, he's in the river, I would be like, okay. But yeah, the rain, not a good solution. It's clearly just a way to be like, okay, we got to bring this guy down. Because he would totally have destroyed Scar right there. Because he can just burn the eyes out of whoever the hell he wants. Unless they're fake Ras. You can't do it with them because they're too cool. But
They're
everybody...
too fast, and they're always blocking his snap.
Yeah. Not great. But in general, like, he's way overpowered as a character, and the rest of the characters just don't really compare. Well, I guess there's Azumi. She's pretty strong.
Is she strong alchemy-wise? Or is she just like, she chose the biggest man she could find and magically absorbed half of his strength? Because while that scene is entertaining to watch where Sloth runs at her and she just sidesteps that nonsense, we already established that both Armstrongs could not tell very well how he was moving.
Yeah.
We already established that. But this woman sidesteps it, throws it to her husband with no issue. And like, that scene is funny. It's the only time where, like, the macho man humor is funny.
Sure.
because they're both there and just being ridiculous,
Yeah.
doing the same thing. I also like that her husband is bigger.
That guy's fucking huge.
He's so massive, and just like, it's really funny.
It's pretty funny.
But he is not that like, that's the only time he's cool.
Oh, he's completely irrelevant.
Otherwise, he's not very relevant or interesting.
She's relevant, but yeah, he is. He is just her husband.
She's relevant. She's like, seems to be a good alchemist, but she doesn't seem to be a great fighting alchemist. Like, Roy would annihilate her, right? She's not in the competition for that.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I think Roy is just ridiculously strong as an alchemist. The flame alchemy is just really powerful. Maybe if he went up against a water alchemist, he would fail.
There wasn't.
Unfortunate.
That is pretty unfortunate.
But you hate Mustang.
I don't like Mustang. I don't enjoy Mustang. He's just, like, his ideals are fine, but he's not enjoyable. He in and of himself, I'm like, okay, you have a cool team of people that I don't really understand. And, like, you were pretty okay murdering thousands of the Ishvanians. Ishvalans, whatever. There's an H.
Ishvanians?
There's an H in there. That's Scar's new name, so it doesn't even matter anymore. Okay?
Sure.
He said call him whatever he wants, and that's what I want to call him. And all of his people.
Okay.
Like, he's pretty okay murdering all those people, but I don't really understand how you have a relationship with any of your other people besides Riza. And it's not, like, super well explained.
Yeah, that's just
you guys are just cool.
Yeah.
Right? I don't feel like I saw you earn their following. Like Ling, I see him earn the following that he has.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seems a little weird at first that these cool, competent people are with bumbling moron. Like, you seem more like babysitters. But then it works itself out, right?
Yeah.
It all pans out with Ling. It doesn't pan out with him.
Yeah.
He's a jerk. He's really inconsistent. Sometimes he's, like, in charge of Edward, and sometimes he's not. And it's just really like, okay, I don't understand.
I don't know, military. Colonel, I suppose, outranks Major, right? That would make sense.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. Because Colonel seems to be a pretty
in
big
the
rank.
show, it does.
And so Edward's, by default, a Major. It's kind of a neat little piece of lore. It's never really utilized outside of him, like, getting his money out of the bank, which is kind of cool. But then, well, Mustang, I think, is a character that grew on me.
Mm-hmm.
His worst moment is when he just lies about Hugh's death. That's the worst moment with him to me. I think that was pretty lame.
It's bad.
He does apologize later for it, which I think is good. It might have been a little secondhand, but I'll take it. I like his relationship with Riza. I think he's pretty interesting. I just feel like he's a pretty big character. Like, outside of the two brothers, you could say he's like the lead character. Like, he's the second or third lead character for like the second half of the series, basically, if you're kind of splitting it. He's pretty important, but I definitely feel like we should have learned more about his relationship with his team, why he trusts these people, how he met these people, why they trust him. Should have seen him working a little bit more, trying to get more power, because he wants to become the top dog. But yeah, I feel like he's not as relevant as he should be, but when he is used, I think it's pretty effective. I think he creates a good interaction with other characters. On his own, I don't think he's that interesting, but like I said, I've come to like him more.
He serves a purpose, right? We're back to this. He does serve a purpose. He serves his purpose just fine. Whatever. I guess now that I'm really thinking about him, in his self-sacrifice scene, he also, I don't know how he snaps after that.
Because his gloves
No.
got cut? That's my problem.
No. The reason he can do it after that is because he doesn't need the alchemy circles because he's seen the trick. Yeah, they explain that.
But he uses powers after his gloves are cut, before that happens.
No, he doesn't.
I'm pretty sure he did, because I remember being like, how the hell is he using that?
His glove is cut. They are stopped.
And they're holding him.
Well, okay, we're going to get there. Yeah. But they're stopped with fake wraths. And then Riza's cut, and that whole scene exchange happens. And then Wrath comes in and wrecks shop, right? Wrath and Pride come in and have secured him and done that. The problem is, his wounds are not magically healed when you get 2 swords through your hand. I didn't even think about it till I was thinking about how stupid the self-sacrifice, or the human transmutation thing was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't really understand how that even works, and we kind of allude that it works, but we didn't really allude exactly what the cost and how the exchange of that really worked at all.
Pride's stone capacity. That's why he's falling apart.
Maybe. I guess. You could argue that. That's fine. But we didn't explain it, so I don't really care. But he's stabbed down there. Like, right through the hand.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a knife and stab it through your hand, and then I need you to snap. Multiple times,
I'll do it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Well, maybe after coming back through the doorway, that kind of just put him back together? But
Edward does not put back together.
For which part?
When he comes back through the doorway. At the beginning.
Oh, at the beginning. Oh, when they lose their
and at the end. Neither time is he put back together.
That's true.
That's
just inconsistency.
Yeah, it's really bad now that I've thought about it.
I don't know that that's a character fault, sometimes it's a writing fault.
But I mean, it's a writing or a visual fault.
Sometimes they're actually pretty good with some of the visuals, I actually think. Like with the earrings.
The earrings is good, except that we really held on to that, and we really tried really hard for her to not have her earrings in for a while, and her holes would have closed up, which I would move on with if I wasn't already actually criticizing it. But then they never come back. They're lost. We don't show them get lost. They're just lost.
Because Edward sees them and is like, oh, yeah, I need to return these.
In Briggs. Is the last time you see them, I think. Where he's like, oh, yeah, I gotta bring earrings back to Winry.
I thought that was somewhere else after Briggs. But either way, he meets up with Winry at her house, in her room. I do like that. See how he's just sitting in there, saying nothing as he's trying to change her shirt, and he's just like over there, like shocked. That's a pretty funny scene. But like, you would think that there would be a scene where he returns those there.
He doesn't.
It would have been a good scene.
He doesn't return them, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't have them in the last scene where she is walking out to see them.
No, but she does
after that.
At the train stop at the very end, she does. Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah, the earring thing was fine until we didn't finish it.
Yeah, they should have. But I'm saying as like an initial detail, I think it's pretty cool. I like how Mustang still had like the scar on his hand.
For a while. Then it went away.
But I think that's a good detail of it, like lasting a little while.
Which is really unclear if you like cut himself or used blood and stained it on there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like
it's not very clear because it's really faded not long after. But I don't know why. If it was your blood, it would be on there. I was not positive on that. I also don't know why he couldn't have just snapped. Why he needed the lighter. I guess, technically he was wet, but like, I don't know. It's bad. Mustang's bad. We all know that. So.
I think his team is basically all just regular people. Not that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Scar. What do you think about Scar? That's a big character.
I do enjoy Scar. Only because he sees the error of his ways and has redemption. Right. I also really appreciate that he sticks to the name thing. He's like, nope. And I like the explanation of that. Like, we believe, our name is given to us from God, and like, it's a special deal. And I forsook that. I moved on. I said, I am a bad person, and I will never get that. Like, and I appreciate he sticks to his guns there.
It's pretty cool. I think Scar is a character where I definitely did not really care for at the beginning, but I came to like a lot more as he kind of develops. And you get, like, I didn't think he was going to be this, like, huge character the first time I see him. I'm like, okay, you're going to be this, like, small antagonist for a little bit. Then he'll probably be killed off. But nope, he is very relevant for a very long time. Until the very end.
Once the homunculus didn't kill him, I was like, you're going to be cool. You're going to do something great. You're going to be a major part of this.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what you thought.
I decided that, yeah. Because...
Good guess.
Because if the homunculus failed to kill you, it's because you have plot armor. And you had plot armor, and your plot armor was pretty thick. But his best scene is when he kidnaps Wenry. Like, that's a deal where they use this tactic a lot, where they, like, showcase the ending, and then we go and we show how we got there.
Yeah.
It worked right there.
That was a good moment,
It only worked there, though. You did it about 40 times, so your success rate is really bad.
that is, I think, it's certainly the best example of that. I also think it's the most interesting time to use it, and it worked pretty well. But I think that's a good scene because there's a lot of other character dynamics with it. I think Scar had already started to get interesting at that point. And I like, though, how at first he really is just this man bent on, like, murder and revenge. And he really learns a lot. He comes to understand a lot, to see some of these people in a new light. But he's not really going to ask for, like, forgiveness. Like, he accepts that what he did, he did. And he's not going to be like, oh, my bad. Hope you guys forgive me. He's like, nah, I killed all those people. I'd probably do it again kind of attitude. Like, but he's more than just that. I think he's actually he's a character that has a lot of depth for what he is. I think he's a surprisingly good character, I think.
He's fine. He's like a 6. He can be up there on L'Enfant and Armstrong level.
Decent.
Yeah. He's not as good as Bling.
But you didn't think he would get that good, I bet.
On first thought, or on first scene, no, but after he lived through the homunculus deal, I was like, he'll have a redemption arc. He'll maybe be okay, depending on how that goes.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, his best deal is the whole scene where he kidnaps Winry.
Yeah.
But that also helps Winry. Like, that's a really pivotal moment for her to move forward.
Yeah.
And I like that the writing on that was really well handled, and that we allude, like, you have the hands of a person who saves people or whatever. I don't know. That line of thought is used often, and it's kind of stupid, but it works. Here, she, like, heals him, or wraps his wound, and I'm like, okay, alright. That was a good moment. But that whole thing worked really well. Also helped the Briggs section be good. Notice how good the Briggs section was.
Yeah, we finally figured it out.
And then we dropped the ball again.
Yeah. I wonder how thought out the whole story is. Like, did the author, pretty sure it's a woman, did she plan all this out from the beginning? I don't really know.
You gotta have some semblance of an idea, but I assume it changes as you go through things.
Oh, I'm sure.
You're like, oh, I shouldn't have wrote that out because now I've kind of screwed this, and I gotta change these things.
Yeah, I'm sure. I just feel like the ending isn't nearly as well thought out as it is meant to seem like. I think it's kind of haphazard.
It just asks you to believe in the rule of cool the whole way through.
Yeah.
And I had stopped believing in the rule of cool a long, long time ago for this show.
Yeah. I think, it's a fair point. Hohenheim, what do you think about that guy? Von Hohenheim.
Whatever. He's a person. He's clearly important.
Yeah.
He's not interesting. If you gave me more, but like what you give me is a weird flashback scene that's not clear, and I only understand the ending of it 30 episodes later.
Yeah.
But I don't really understand any of it before that, I don't get it. Didn't care. Him and Trisha, I was like, okay, she's just a ridiculous woman, basically. She reminds me of the country songs about the woman who will just put up with everything. That's what she reminds me of. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm glad we're pulling back to country.
Yeah, I'm really having a gripe with country this week. Because it's just been every single day, and it's really grating on me.
Yeah.
A lot.
Fair.
And so we're venting some of my frustration.
I do not know this song.
There's lots of these songs where it's like about, like, I'm like an alcoholic and a bad person, and, insinuating that you're probably emotional and manipulative, but this woman stays with you, and that's why she's great.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty good woman. Probably better than what this guy is, but I don't know a song like this.
Oh, there's tons of them.
Okay,
there's tons of them.
Okay.
You have not listened to enough country music, apparently. And I need you to not listen to any more country music in my presence.
What if it's like old country music?
No.
No, not like Cash or anything?
Nope.
Okay.
None of it.
Okay.
None of it can exist anymore.
Okay.
It could be burned by Roy Mustang, and then he could serve a real purpose in life.
Fair enough.
But that's what she reminds me of. It's just kind of the devoted woman for no real good reason.
I don't really feel like I know her very well. Like, she's loving. That's good. But, like, I don't really know anything else. She's pretty important for the characters of the Elrics. But, like, yeah. Could have been a little bit more with her, I suppose. I don't really care. I didn't need more. I think Hohenheim is a character where I kind of am not interested. He gets more interesting. And then he kind of loses some interest, then we kind of go back to being kind of interesting, and then he had his ending. I like that he's actually kind of the one who saves everything at the end. Like, it's not Edward or Alphonse or even really them together. It's really, like, everything only worked out because Hohenheim was like, I gotta go create this other alchemy symbol with these souls and then screw over the plan. That's the only reason things really seem to work out.
His steel is different, right? He kind of does stuff, and it works. But the reversal thing is on...
Scar's brother.
Is on Scar and them, and the Ishvanian, or Avalonians, whatever. I don't remember what they're called, apparently.
Yeah.
They're not important, except for what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah.
Right, that's on them. So he has a major part, but so do their part's just as equally important.
I suppose, but like action-wise, he's the one who went and did it. And in the end, like Scar's brother gave him the knowledge, and that's important, but he's still the one who went and did it. It's not... I just think it's interesting, like they try to make Edward to be kind of the hero or whatever at the end by fighting Father, but like... It's so poorly done in that instance that it doesn't really seem like relevant. I really feel like this only happens because Hohenheim is being smart and can predict the fucking moon shape over the country. That gets to me. But anyway, I think that's an interesting point and it's kind of cool. But I don't know. He's really not... He's pretty important for everything, but I feel like he's not there that often until the end.
He is there to see him wandering or doing things, and you're like, okay, cool, whatever, I don't care about you. You're not interesting. You're just a bad person, seemingly. Like, you're not a good father. You're just kind of annoying. You're clearly putting on a front to put on a front. And I'm like, okay, great. I never cared. I didn't start caring. Oh, you're cooler than everybody else. I figured that already. Because I've seen your flashback scene 4 times now. Woo! I wasn't interested. He definitely has his purpose, and that's fine.
Indeed.
Is there any other cool people? I don't feel like there's anybody else to really talk about that hasn't already been mentioned that's not just going to be like, they serve a purpose. They're cool. Dr. Marco serves a purpose. Pinocchio or whatever. That's not her name. But Pinocchio. Yeah. Serves a purpose. Whatever. She could have been like the cool grandma figure who takes people out or is full of the fount of wisdom. But she wasn't. She was just there. She was a person.
True.
I don't know if there's anybody else
we're talking about. I mean, it's fair. I think we've basically covered everyone major. Pretty large cast.
It's long running. 64 episodes is pretty decent. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of moving parts that all end up working together.
I do think, as much as we're kind of crapping on the ending, I do think things come together pretty decently well in many ways, though. Character, relationship-wise, I think things come together pretty well. Some of the events do come together pretty well. I just think the execution at the very end is pretty poor. Like, the fight at Central, all that, I think is pretty decent. It's really the underground stuff after we kill off Envy where it goes, okay, who's the hell is this doctor guy with the gold tooth who created...
All the homunculus is the idea. And the only other time I think you see him is when Kimbley's on his deathbed, basically.
Yeah. And so it's like, who the hell is this guy? How old is this guy, first of all? Because you were looking old when Wrath was young. So you're freaking ancient. I don't really know who this guy is. He's a complete mystery. That's kind of weird.
He didn't even get a name.
Yeah. Just old dude with gold tooth.
Gold tooth doctor, I think, is in the little screenshot thing.
Oh, really? That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I feel like you should have done something with that. This is what I'm saying. You had a time skip. There's things you could have developed that are kind of important coming up, but we just didn't do that. Whatever. But overall, I think things come together pretty decently.
I mean, the writing on kind of screen direction, basically, if we were at a real play, screen direction type deal, of these elements are going to work like this and weave together. It works.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, their actual screen direction is fine. It works. It's nothing exceptional. There's no shots that I'm like, wow, that was impressive. But I also often wasn't like, wow, that was really stupid.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent. It's generally pretty believable. I do think the world, the setting, and kind of the colors of the world are pretty cool. I actually really like it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't.
Like, I felt like I'm generally not interested in kind of like an older, timey setting, but I actually think it's done really well. I like it quite a bit.
I mean, it works. It's fine. I'm not impressed at all, really, by any of that. Like, the art style is fine. They do impressively work their sound effects pretty well, but they run the same sound effects. Like, they have, like, the same 6 mood-setting soundtracks.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You put some effort in. You're better than Code Geass. You knew that there were other instruments besides horns, and you used them at appropriate times, and it works. But I really wish you had done, like, different renditions of these same things so that you could kind of have a little bit of variety and still communicate the same and build on the effort that you put in to make these types of scenes have this music.
And they tried to add in a couple more at the end, which is kind of weird.
They have some one-offs.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I appreciated that. Those were notably better, right? You can have some one-offs. But they definitely reuse their stuff, and that's fine. I get it. You're on a short budget and short time constraints, and that's probably what happened. But you at least have decent sound effects and sound engineering throughout the whole thing, pretty much. It ups it a lot. If it had poor sound quality, there'd be a lot more problems that I would have probably found and dealt with.
Sure. All right, well, let's look at the openings. So you like the first opening?
So the first opening is the golden standard of openings, I've decided.
Like that, it's that good.
You better, if you want to be like, topping great openings, it's what you need to do.
So for all shows?
All shows, yeah.
So this is your new, like, top dog.
Yeah, I really think the opening holds itself. It's really well done. The art and the screen direction of that and everything. My one little gripe here is there's the scene where it's Edward, and then he, like, gets his whole weird body movement, and he loses his arm and his leg. And it's Alphonse, and he loses his entire body. And then there's Wenry.
Oh, yeah.
For no reason other than you needed a little bit of filler, basically. And so there's Wenry doing nonsense movement, and nothing happens. That was so unnecessarily irrelevant. But everything else in that opening, golden. Amazing. It was great. The song is really good. The song has an acoustic version, and it's better, but it wouldn't have fit the actual opening.
Did you look this up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've looked this up.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, But after that, I was like, I don't really.
I think the first opening's good. Particularly, I think the colors in it are really good. I think the colors are really cool.
Well, they smartly, when they didn't have something to put, cut to, what is that, Wenry talking? Who's that supposed to be talking? When it switches and then the lyrics are matching their lip sync.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Wenry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Looking at me like I'm some crazy person.
I was trying to think of the scene.
But yeah, that's a nice moment where we said we didn't need something. We'll let the music stand and then we'll move. It was great.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool opening. I like it.
I don't remember what the second opening is, or the third opening, or the fourth opening, or the fifth opening.
The third opening, the second one I also am like, I can't remember.
It's forgettable, apparently.
The third opening is when he's in the flower field, the white flower, and then he's got, like, his hand up, it's raining, and then it's got the voice where you're like, I do not like this.
This is why we watched it together, because I forgot these things. I said it wasn't good, and I moved on. So you started really, really high, and then you never delivered again.
So it's kind of funny. So you immediately were like, this opening is... Like, we were halfway through the first opening. The first time, you're like, this is really good.
Yeah, I said it was good, and that's why it was better than Code Geass already.
Yeah.
I already decided that their sound team was better.
So there's that. And then you get to the second opening, and you didn't say anything until much later when you're like, I'm kind of tired of this opening. When do we get a new one? And I played the game of, it should be pretty soon. And then we get to the third one, and you're like, I am already tired of this opening.
Yeah, I kind of remember this. Like, I don't think we finished it.
Yeah, and you're
and
like,
I was like,
oh, this is not good.
I think it was the voice, but
yeah,
I don't remember.
There's definitely the voice.
Yeah, whatever. It wasn't good.
And then we get 4, which starts off, and part of the reason I really like 4 is I really like the beats at the very beginning, and the kid versions of the Elrics are using their fingers to draw a circle in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really cool shot. I don't know why,
But the very first time I saw that shot, I immediately was like, that's really cool. I like that a lot.
Okay. I was not impressed with it. The music I didn't think was that impressive. You said it was your favorite, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I like the song a lot, but it's a bit more, it's a bit more like the music I would normally listen to. It has a bit more like rock to it. Not that I should really call it much of a rock song, but it's a little bit more in that direction. I think the song's really cool. I like when you have the two brothers like run through each other and then their colors change. And then they like look around and they start to see characters that are part of the story. And then you kind of split off the characters. So like Edward sees Winry and sees like Mustang. And then like Alphonse sees like May and some other characters. And it splits them off in that way, in a way that you can see like relations and kind of how they lean, but they're all still part of the same field. I think that's also really cool.
The red-blue thing is visually appealing once. It's not special after that. It's not cool.
And then I like Alphonse fighting Pride in the opening too. I think that's a really cool visual. And then you get like Greed fighting Wrath. I think that's pretty neat. Visually, I just really like it. I think it is kind of in many ways the most generic opening of them all, but I do like it because I think visually it works really well and just kind of resonates with me. I do agree that the first one is also very good, and I think the last one is also pretty good.
I remember. I just think the last one has the montage of all of the characters, right?
Yeah.
And we stopped to skip it, or like skipped too often with good old General Armstrong, because she's your waifu, and you needed that last look. I understood.
Yeah, I also was very good about when I was skipping ahead on the episode to stop on Winry.
Yeah, I understand you think Winry's pretty great too.
I was like, this is the. I just used it because I was like, that's the image I'm choosing to know that we're at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all the ending openings were serviceable. They were, except for the first one where they nailed it. They knew. They figured it out.
Yeah. They
set the standard for everybody else.
Yeah, it's a good opening. I think it could easily make a top list, but
it's at the top of the list.
I mean, I understand. I actually think, though, that the endings in this, outside of the first ending isn't particularly good. I like the song in it, but the animation of it is not very good. But I actually think a lot of the endings are pretty good, too. Visually, endings are generally very rare. The only endings that I think are really, really exceptional are a couple of Inuyasha Final Act endings I think are really good. But in general, I think these are really good, way better than the normal endings in anime. And I like the music in them. Visually, I think they're pretty good. Overall, pretty strong.
They're forgettable.
I get it.
They serve their purpose. That's the name of this, the Fullmetal Alchemist. It's really called... It serves its purpose.
Yeah.
That's really what it should be called.
Could be worse, I suppose.
I mean, there's a lot. Purpose. There's a lot worse criticisms. You can go listen to Code Geass. There's a lot worse criticisms I could give things.
That's true.
So, but yeah, I mean, the endings were never offensible, but they were never rememberable either. They were never something where I was like, "Oh, this is really cool. I really like this."
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, I guess there's a couple things that I would like, kind of just small kind of things I do think are good. One, I think the show is pretty good about not having a lot of filler. Outside of you have the one weird Hohenheim episode, which is kind of a recap episode. That's not very good. But it's one episode, not that bad. And then, like I said earlier, I think we do a little bit too much, like reaffirming our goals at the end, at the beginning. Outside of that, I think the show stays... Like, it doesn't do weird tricks very often where it's like, oh, the last 3 minutes of the last episode or the first 3 minutes of the next episode. I don't really do that very often, except for some very small cases, and they're not long. Generally, we're very good about that. I think we stay on topic pretty often. Some of the jokes the animation of some of the early jokes is really bad and kind of lasts way too long. But overall, I think we do a pretty good job there. I like the fact that it doesn't I was like, oh, look, this woman has breasts. We need to focus on those breasts for about 20 seconds. Oh, look, she's sitting in a chair. Now they're jiggling. Like, we didn't do that crap.
Jiggle physics were definitely not a thing here.
Yeah, and I think it's, it's not a tone that this show needed. It would have really, I think, harmed the show quality-wise. So I'm glad we didn't do that. Now, also, like I said, I think it's a female author. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe that's not fair, though. I don't know. Overall, though, I think it does a pretty good job there. I think it's a good adaptation for the most part. Like, you kind of don't have a couple stuff at the very beginning that's in the manga. But overall, pretty dang solid adaptation. I do think the humor, some of the early humor works better in the manga, but it's been a long time since I've read it. Maybe my mind would be entirely changed. I think the writing's generally pretty strong. I don't think we veer into just like complete nonsense territory where like you're just kind of spouting nonsense at each other and expecting the audience to just understand what you're really talking about. I don't think we really do that, which I think is pretty good. I think animation holds up very well for being from 2009. Pretty good. I think it holds up pretty dang well. There's a couple steals that look a little bad, but I mean, that's in everything. I think that's about it.
What's your recap? What's your summation of how you feel about this show?
Well, those are just points that I think are good to bring up because I think they're good positives, and so I wanted to bring them up.
He's trying to balance out all my negativity over here.
Well, it is equivalent exchange, Nietzsche.
But yeah, anyway, no, the show, it is what it is, right? It serves its purpose. It delivers what it needs to deliver. It has some slightly, exceptional things, but not like amazingly exceptional.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Riza, wrong choice, in Animal, and Ling's good.
Yeah, I would say it's a good show that has great moments and a couple bad moments.
Anything else? Any other great things that you feel you need to talk about with this show? Any other scenes that you're like, man, we need to talk about that? I need to know how much you hated that scene.
No, I asked the couple that I cared about.
Well, if you enjoyed this, go ahead and comment, follow, subscribe, do all of the things you need to do. Remember, we need to hear about why cats are better.
And you can tell your mechanic.
Yeah. You when you go get your car fixed, you make sure you roll down that window while they're doing that oil change. Have you heard of? And maybe you play it for them. That's acceptable.
Yeah, please do.
You do that. They need something to listen to besides country music. What are you giving this?
After much thought, 7.9.
I am giving this 5.5 out of 10.
Have at us.